Hello, friends. I am Vlad the Impaler, the Prince of Transylvania. In history, I became a monster to save my people and my family. Today, I will tell you the story of that dark past, a journey filled with thrilling experiences. Our story begins in the year 1442. The Turkish emperor demanded a heavy price from the kingdom of Transylvania. He gathered 1,000 young boys and trained them in various ways to become his soldiers. The Turkish emperor planned to build his empire using these young slaves. But a year later, from among those 1,000 boys, a warrior emerged whose name would strike terror into the hearts of his enemies. His power was so great that they called him the Son of the Dragon, Vlad the Impaler. But after countless battles and killing many enemies, he turned against all this brutality. Leaving these actions behind, he left the Turkish Empire and began ruling Transylvania once again. And this Vlad is the main character of this film, whom we will see as Dracula in the next episode. While ruling Transylvania, one day, as Vlad and his soldiers were walking through the forest, they suddenly found a Turkish army helmet in a river. Seeing this, Vlad assumed that a Turkish spy group was preparing to attack their kingdom. Otherwise, where would this Turkish army helmet come from? So, with this suspicion, they went to the riverbank and entered a cave in the mountains. Emperor Vlad and his soldiers had already guessed that the Turkish spies were staying in this cave. This was because as soon as they arrived, a large number of bats started flying out. Usually, bats don't leave their caves during the day, so the emperor suspected that someone was inside, which is why the bats were coming out. Entering the cave, they saw a horrific scene. Skeletal remains and bones were scattered all over the floor. Before they could even realize what was happening, a terrifying creature suddenly attacked them, killing 2 of Vlad's soldiers. The creature attacked Vlad, sending him flying toward the sunlight at the entrance. As his sword reflected the light, the creature backed away from him. Even more surprisingly, the creature's sword vanished as soon as the sunlight hit it. Anyway, Vlad didn't think much about it at that moment and returned to Transylvania. On his very first day back, he met with a priest from the Romanian church and asked him about the creature he had seen in the cave. The priest listened to his explanation and told him that once in ancient times, a Roman commander named Caligula made a deal with a demon out of fear of the Turkish emperor. Although the demon gave him the necessary power, it tricked him and trapped him in a dark cave for the rest of his life. And until he finds someone as brave as himself, he will remain trapped in that cave. This means, if the vampire finds someone as brave as himself, he will pass all his powers to that person and be freed from this curse. That is the story of the vampire in the cave. After hearing this, Vlad requested the priest to keep this incident a secret from everyone, because his subjects are already living in fear of the Turkish soldiers. And if they find out about this vampire, it would cause a complete storm of panic in Transylvania, which Vlad definitely doesn't want. Well, the next day, while Vlad, his wife Marina, and his son Ingaras were celebrating Orthodox Easter with all their people, a group of Turkish soldiers suddenly entered the palace. As soon as he saw them, Vlad brought a large sum of money and offered it as tribute to the Turkish Sultan. In fact, in ancient times, smaller kingdoms would donate money like this to please great emperors. In many cases, it was a sign of surrender. This meant the kingdom would never attack the Turkish Empire again. But before returning with the tribute, a messenger informed Vlad that the current Turkish emperor, Sultan Mehmed, demanded a gift of 1,000 young boys from Transylvania, just as Vlad had fought as a Turkish soldier during his childhood. But at this moment, Vlad tells the Turkish soldiers to return with their tribute. The next day, Vlad himself goes to speak with the Turkish emperor. This is because he had a very good relationship with Sultan Mehmed from the time they fought together as soldiers in their youth. His wife believed that if Vlad personally requested him, the Turkish emperor might listen. But unfortunately, when Vlad asked the Turkish emperor to withdraw the demand for those 1,000 boys, the emperor firmly stated that he needed them at any cost. At the same time, he also demanded that Vlad's only son, Ingaras, be surrendered to him as well. As a result, there was no way out. Arriving at the border of Transylvania, Vlad prepared to hand over his son to the Turkish army, but his wife refused to agree to this. She reminds him that when they got married, Vlad promised her and her family that he would protect their child at any cost. At this moment, she cannot let their son be taken by the Turks. But as Vlad tries to calm her down and proceeds to hand over his son, a Turkish soldier speaks to Vlad in a mocking tone. "We never thought you would hand over your son to us so easily." Hearing this, Vlad loses his temper and kills all the Turkish soldiers. But later, he realizes that Emperor Mehmed will now destroy his entire kingdom in retaliation, because he had defied the emperor's orders and killed the Turkish soldiers. So, after sending his wife and son back to the palace, he set off for the cave alone. He knew his kingdom didn't have enough power to defeat Sultan Mehmed, so he plans to seek help from the vampire in the cave to save his wife and son from the Turks. Upon entering the cave with this plan, the vampire appears before him and tells him that no one has ever dared to come here a second time. "So may I ask, why have you come here a second time, knowing that death awaits you?" Then Vlad bravely tells him, "Turkish Emperor Mehmed has ordered the destruction of my kingdom. I want to use your power to stop them, so that my family and my people remain safe." Hearing this, the vampire takes some blood from his own body and tells Vlad to drink it, so that Vlad could use all of his power. But when Vlad asks about the consequences of drinking this blood, the vampire tells him, "By drinking this, you will gain my strength, but at the same time, it will make you immortal. However, if you can resist drinking anyone else's blood for the first 3 days, you will become a normal human being again. But if you draw anyone's blood within the first 3 days, I will be released from my imprisonment, and you will become a vampire forever. Then you will kill ordinary people to drink their blood, just like I do." After hearing all this, Vlad still wants to save the women, children, and common people. Actually, Vlad plans to restrain himself in any way possible for the next 3 days so that no one's blood is shed. This means that on the third day, he would become a normal human again, and during these 3 days, he would use the vampire's power to defeat the Turkish army. So, he drinks the vampire's blood. Immediately, he falls unconscious from the intense, burning pain. After regaining consciousness, he finds himself by a riverbank. He realizes that he has become much stronger than before. He can see across vast distances, and even the faintest sounds now reach his ears naturally. As he rushed toward the palace at incredible speed, he noticed that he could now transform his shape into bats. When he finally reached the palace, he saw that the Turkish army had already launched their attack, and his subjects were being completely crushed by the Turks. Seeing this, Vlad first meets with his wife and son, and then tells all his people that there is no reason to be afraid. He reassures them that the Turks will receive a fitting response for this attack, so he charges toward the thousands of Turkish soldiers and uses his superhuman strength to wipe them all out. After the attack, when everyone comes outside, they are stunned to see their emperor has defeated an entire army alone. But before they can say a word, Vlad tells them, "Do not ask me anything about this battle. Just trust me. I will keep all my people safe." He orders all the people of Transylvania to leave the palace as quickly as possible and head toward Kozia. He knows the Turkish emperor will send even more soldiers to defeat them. As everyone heads toward Kozia, only Dumitru, one of Vlad's soldiers, suggests that he use old-school tactics to defeat the Turks within 4 to 5 months. Vlad replies that he will defeat them in just 3 days, not months. Because as we know, Vlad wants to become a normal human again as soon as possible. For the first 3 days, he will not drink anyone's blood. After that, he will become a normal human again. And since he will possess the power of a vampire during these 3 days, he plans to defeat the Turks within this time frame. Anyway, Vlad had to stop this craving at any cost. But when he tried to spend time with his wife, he kept staring at her because he was now a vampire, and his only food was blood. He struggled intensely to control himself at that moment. But by the next morning, his wife began to realize that some unexpected changes had happened to Vlad because all the scars on Vlad's body were gone. His wounds had vanished due to the vampire's power. When his wife Marina wanted to know what had happened to him, he tore a piece of the tent's fabric and stepped into the sunlight. And because he was in the sun, his entire body started to burn. She pulled him out of the sunlight. Then, she demanded to know who had done this to him. Vlad replies, "I did this willingly because with this power, I can do anything. But in 3 days, I will become a normal human being again." In the middle of this conversation, his commander informs him that a massive force of Turkish soldiers has besieged their palace. To avenge the deaths of their thousands of fallen comrades, the Turkish army has now deployed hundreds of thousands of soldiers. Now they have to reach the Kozia fortress as quickly as possible. But Vlad cannot stay in the sunlight. Therefore, at this moment, he orders Dumitru to take his wife, son, and all his people and head to the Kozia stronghold. And Vlad will keep an eye on all the Turkish soldiers alone. But unfortunately, a small group of Turkish soldiers launches a surprise attack on the Transylvanians at the Kozia stronghold. Since Vlad arrives just in time, he manages to save his wife and son from the hands of the Turkish army. But unfortunately, Commander Dumitru sacrifices his own life to save Vlad's wife and son from the Turkish army. Anyway, for the Transylvanians present at Kozia, Vlad warns them all that the Turkish army could attack here as well. He tells everyone to be ready for the fight. On the other hand, a messenger informs the Turkish emperor that Vlad has turned into a monster. He explains that with this new power, Vlad has slaughtered thousands of Turkish soldiers, causing the army to retreat in fear. He warns the emperor to prepare in advance. Hearing this, Sultan Mehmed sends out an army of soldiers who are completely blindfolded. So, if the soldiers cannot see, they will move forward without any fear. They will fight against an enemy they cannot even see. Meanwhile, we see the monk who was at the temple. The one who had told Vlad about the vampire was now looking at him with suspicion. This was because Vlad was walking while avoiding the sunlight. Addressing his suspicion, the monk appeared before him and told him he knew very well that only vampires cannot withstand the sunlight. "I think you drank the vampire's blood just to change your own fate. Before the people kill you, let me have the permission to end your life myself." But Vlad rejects this offer and tells him to leave. But the monk unmasks Vlad in front of everyone and tears away the tent fabric. As a result, as soon as the sunlight hits Vlad's body, his entire skin begins to burn. Everyone finally realizes that their emperor has turned into a vampire, so they all set the tent on fire, hoping the monster would die inside. But using his power, Vlad uses the smoke from the fire to block the sunlight and steps out of the flames. Then he tells everyone, "Is this your loyalty? What were you thinking? Are you still alive? Just to fight? You are only alive because of me. My current condition is only to save your lives." Vlad becomes so angry that his wife steps in front of him to calm him down. As a result, Vlad settles down and orders his subjects to return to their duties once again, because the Turks are going to attack here very soon. Anyway, that night, through his far-sighted vision, Vlad sees nearly 100,000 Turkish soldiers approaching their camp. As Vlad began discussing with his soldiers how he would stop these furious Turkish forces, he noticed a bat flying in the sky and remembered something. The master vampire had told him that he could control any creature that roams the night. So Vlad began to attack the Turkish army using swarms of those bats. And he personally appears on the battlefield. But at that exact moment, a group of Turkish forces enters the palace and kills several Transylvanians. Then, they throw Marina off the top of a high cliff and kidnap Ingaris. When Vlad realizes that the Turks have cleverly kidnapped his son, he rushes back to his camp. But he doesn't make it there in time. He also fails to save his wife from falling off the cliff. At that moment, as Vlad tries to speak with his dying wife, she tells him to kill her so that he can gain the power to rescue their son and destroy the entire Turkish city. Hearing this, he reluctantly drinks her blood, killing her. As a result, in the upcoming battle, he turns into a bloodthirsty vampire, and the master vampire, who was trapped in that cave, breaks free from his magical shield, just as he had told Vlad from the beginning. After that, Vlad returns to the palace once again and seeks answers from his unarmed soldiers. Do you want to take revenge for this miserable situation? They all declare that they want their revenge. Vlad gives his blood to all his people to drink, turning them all into vampires, and then they take their revenge. On the other hand, the Turkish emperor is setting off with his massive army to invade Europe. But at that very moment, a black cloud covers the entire sky. This is because Vlad had shielded the sky with his magical powers, and hidden within those shadows, all the vampires completely destroy the entire Turkish army. Seeing all of this, Emperor Mehmed waits for Vlad inside his tent. Mehmed already knows the weaknesses of vampires. That's why he has scattered silver coins all around his tent. In fact, vampires cannot tolerate silver at all. Their weakness begins to grow the moment they come into contact with it. This is exactly why Emperor Mehmed made these arrangements. But Vlad enters the tent and begins his fight against Mehmed. His son is trapped inside this very tent. Now, his only goal is to defeat the emperor and set his son free. Due to the silver coins, Vlad initially begins to lose to Mehmed, but at the last moment, he manages to defeat and kill him. As he steps out of the tent with his son, the other vampires try to drink the boy's blood because they have all lost their humanity. The vampires surround him from all sides. What should he do now? Right then, the monk pulls out his cross, scaring off the vampires and pulling Vlad's son away so they can't harm him. Vlad tearfully says goodbye to his son and clears the black clouds from the sky. As the sun rises, all the vampires are burned and destroyed on the spot. But in the next moment, someone steps forward to save Vlad from the sun's flames and revives him using their own blood. After everything settles down, Vlad's son, Ingiras, is crowned as the new emperor. In the final scene, centuries later, Vlad meets a woman named Marina. As the two of them meet, the scene shows the master vampire watching everything from a distance. And that is where this movie ends. Since 2014, no sequel to this movie has been released. I have no idea when it might be released in the future. If it ever comes out, we'll get to see the rest of the story. Alright, let me know what you thought of the video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like and share it with your friends. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe